Okay, cool. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. I have wanted to talk to this woman in this context for such a long time because I'm a fan. Kathy Freston is a New York Times bestselling author, a health and wellness activist, and an advocate for animals. And I would just be so much stronger than advocate. I think she would jump off a building if it could save animals. Her latest book is 72 Reasons to be Vegan. And I just want to tell you, Kathy, how I first came to know that you existed on this planet at the same time as me. I was visiting a friend over in Hell's Kitchen, and just as I was leaving, she had the TV on and the Oprah show was on, and you were there. I believe it was your first appearance with Quantum Wellness. She didn't even have the sound on. I don't know what you were talking about, but your presence, your being, not just because you're beautiful to look at, but because you have a beautiful soul, sort of exited the TV. It was like it filled the room. And
Mm.
there was a thing on the chyron that had your name, and then I went home and read about you. So,
Oh,
gosh, it's good to be talking to you. Welcome to the
thank
Compassion
you.
Counselor
It's
Show.
great. Thank you. Thank you for that. That is really, really kind of you. Thank you.
Well, the reason that I just know everybody here is going to be so interested in hearing from you is that you bring your spirit into your animal activism. You are a health vegan as well as an ethical vegan. You're really somebody who ties it all together. So tell
Mhm.
us a little bit of your story, how you started out and how you got here.
Well, so I did not ever aim in my life to become a vegan advocate or activist or anything like that. And I grew up in the South in Georgia, Doraville, Georgia. And if you would have told me that I would not eat anything from an animal, when I grew up, I'd be like, what? And then that I would devote my life to it, I would just think you're from another planet. So it just wasn't in my awareness at all. And so I started off my writing career writing about sort of how to be more awake and aware in relationships, how to have more conscious communication, how to be more intentional in your relationships, and to bring spirituality into the relationship and actually create the relationship out of spirituality, not a formal religion, but just in a place of being connected, trying to constantly raise the vibration and come from a place of soul and heart and kindness and all of that stuff. So I had written a couple of books about relationships, and I had Diet for a New America by John Robbins on my bedside for many years, and I had cracked it open from time to time and slammed it shut because it was so disturbing. I don't know if you remember that book, but John Robbins is one of the OGs of this incredibly compassionate movement. And it was too much. It was an inconvenient truth that I did not know how to even, be with. So I closed it. But that was always in the back of my mind. And then I had received a pamphlet in the mail. This is probably 18 years ago or something. I received a pamphlet in the mail from some animal organization, and it showed a cow being dragged to slaughter. And don't worry, I'm not going to traumatize anyone with any details, but it so jarred me that I was like, it was a cow being dragged. It was probably a dairy cow, because when they're finished producing dairy, they're obviously worn out and, they're going to be used for their meat. And so that was also in the back of my mind. And one day I was just playing with my dog, Lotzi, a little Chihuahua, and I was rubbing her belly. She was on her back and she was kicking her legs out. And I said, oh, I love this dog so much. I love animals so much. And this voice inside of my head, which I feel like is the voice of spirit, the voice of consciousness, the voice of my higher power, whatever you want to call it. But for me, it's a voice that I recognize and I listen to. And it said, well, if you love animals so much, why are you eating them? And that, Victoria, was really upsetting to me because I kind of thought of myself as a conscious person, as someone who was awake and aware. But I just realized, I'm like, I'm a girl from the South. I love my barbecue ribs. I love, burgers on the weekend. I love steak on the grill. I mean, I was kind of, had that bravado of, yeah, give me some sausage. And, I just, it just didn't jar. And I didn't know what to do about it. So I did a thought experiment, and I pictured Lotzi, my little dog, as if she were a food animal. Maybe she was a chicken, maybe she was oops, sorry, that was my alarm. Maybe she was a chicken, maybe she was a lamb, whatever. And I pictured her in the line going towards slaughter. And it just blew away, because I thought you're right, I would lay down my life, rather than have this animal who I knew and loved. I knew her intimately. I knew what made her afraid. I knew who she liked, who she didn't, when she was anxious, and why. I had a real relationship with this animal, and I would do anything to, not have her suffer. I didn't even like leaving the house for very long because I knew she would suffer, And so if I felt that way about my dog, how could I just be in partnership with these, animal food producers? Like, how could I was doing the same thing to the cow, to the pig, to the chicken, to the lamb. And so I just challenged myself. I thought, I don't want to be somebody who eats animals. I just don't want to be somebody. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but this is my intention. I'm going to hold this intention, and I'm going to explore ways that I can lean into being the person that I want to be. And that's what started me on my journey.
And you wrote a book called The Lean, which talks about looking at this way of life and just coming a little bit closer. Maybe you don't have to dive off the high dive the first day. Tell us about that concept.
Well, for me, if you had told me stop eating animals, I would have been like, I would have shut down. I couldn't have done it. It was foreign territory to me. This was so, yes, there were vegans out there. There were vegetarians out there. I didn't really know any. I might have known a vegetarian or two, but I certainly didn't, I didn't hang with them. It wasn't my, social group. So I thought, and this is why I have a lot of compassion for people who shut down, because we numb out and we disconnect because we have to, right? And so if I thought I had to stop eating animals just like that, I would have failed. I would have gone back numb. I would have disconnected the dots again, and I would have given up. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to cut myself some slack, and I'm just going to find my way. And it was so effective for me because I took the pressure off. And I feel like I'm not so different from anybody else. And I think that if people are, given the space to sort of, and dignity and respect, that given the right information and the kindness and compassion toward them, people are going to find their way toward this, because it just makes sense, right? And so rather than shaming, if someone came to me and shamed me and tried to force me to be this way, I just wouldn't have done it. And I get it about activists. I so get it, because when I first was 100% vegan, I was like, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. I wanted to clobber someone over the head if I saw them eating lamb chops at the table next to me. I wanted to scream at them, don't you see what you're doing? But as a practical person, I have to think, we all have to think, what would work with me? If someone were trying to bring some awareness to me, would shaming and clobbering over the head work? No. would kindness and gentle information and just sort of like an opening up the door, opening up the tent and welcome me in work, yes, that would work. And so that's what I try to do with a lean in philosophy.
And how do you do that today, Kathy? I know you write your books, but what else, what makes you an activist and advocate? What does that look like?
Well, what makes me an active, I continue to write. My co-author Jean and I just wrote this book about the 72 reasons to be vegan. So and I try to keep it light. I'm very active on Instagram, and sometimes I get beaten up on Instagram because I'm not hardcore. And when I say I'm not hardcore, that doesn't mean I'm like, yeah, I'll have chicken every once in a while. No, it means that I'm not going to shame someone. I want it to be a bigger and bigger tent. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a member of the tribe. Sometimes people say, yeah, we're the vegan tribe or whatever. It's like, no, tribalism has gotten us nowhere good. And I don't want to be in the tribe. So I'd rather hang out with people who are comfortable eating whatever they want around me, and that we can respect each other. And maybe there's an openness for me to see what motivates and animates them. And maybe they can see what motivates and animates me. And so I write about that on Instagram. I write about my own struggles, my own flaws, that I'm not perfect. I have an old pair of Uggs from 20 years ago. I wear them like slippers in the house, and the hardcore people beat me up for that. But you know what? It's like, let's give people the space to be humans doing the very best that we can with heart and with soul and with connectedness with each other. And so that's how I try to remain an advocate and activist.
No, that's beautiful. I think in the teenage world, there's this concept of mean girls. And I think in the adult world, there's this concept of mean people online. It's like people who would be pretty kind and polite in real life.
It's funny, isn't it? It's really strange. I don't understand it. It's like, do you not think we have feelings? Do you not think that people are going to read the comments? And I have a very thick skin because I've been doing this for a long time, and I wrote a lot of blogs, and I got a lot of tomatoes thrown at me through, the airwaves. But so I have a thick skin, but sometimes people take a low blow, and I just don't understand it. But I just know that resistance is a funny thing. We resist in ways that feel self-protective. So I have a lot of compassion for animals, and I also want to have a lot of compassion for humans because humans are complex, and we're all doing the best that we can.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, Kathy, you live a really sophisticated life. I mean, you're out there in LA, and you've lived in New York, and Oprah would take your calls. So what's it like to have this heart for animals out there in the pretty glittery big world?
Well, it's interesting because it has changed a lot in the last 18 years. I mean, it's normalized now. I think when I used to go to someone's house or meet people for a restaurant, I was very almost apologetic. Like, I'm so sorry, I'm vegan, and let me, don't want you to go to any trouble. Now it's like, oh, she's vegan. Okay. And it's just sort of, it's normalized. I mean, restaurants tend to carry at least one vegan option. And if I call a host, back in the days when I used to go to dinner parties pre-pandemic, but hopefully one day again soon, but I would just call and say, hey, I'm vegan if you want me to bring something to dinner so you don't have to worry about it. And they're like, oh no, we've got that covered. So it's just normalized now. It's so much easier than it was. Here's another thing that really bugged me, Victoria, is when and I was guilty of it too, is that a lot of vegans, we want to just, because we're so desperate for people not to hurt the animals. So we're like, it's so easy. And it's like, it's not that easy, if you're not living in New York or Los Angeles 15 years ago. It's easier now. It's easier in pretty much every medium and large city, and even in the small cities, I love exploring, where you can eat. But I don't want to say to someone it's easy, because it's your entire life you've been eating one way, which is meat, cheese, eggs. And so it's different. It's just finding your own way. And but that's changed. It's just gotten better now.
Yeah. So is being vegan, is being someone who has a heart for animals part of your spiritual life?
It's actually the cornerstone of my spiritual life, because it, like the story I just told, it taught me sacrifice. I loved ribs. I had this cute little fur collar that I loved, that I thought was very chic. I loved Jimmy Choo's shoes. I mean, it was much easier for me to get, the steak out of my life than it was than the fabulous shoes that I loved. And it taught me that that following my compassion, my spiritual values, such as mercy, and being a responsible steward, and kindness, those were more valuable, and they made me feel better as a person. Practicing my values, and they're pretty basic, compassion, kindness, mercy, responsible stewardship, that they're pretty broad values. They're not like very niche, right? But practicing them through giving up eating and exploiting animals for food or fashion, then I got to practice being the person that I wanted to be. And I'm still not the person that I want to be. I'm still aiming higher and higher and more evolved and deeper and more expanded and all those things. But practicing my values around veganism, has allowed me to become the person that I hoped to be.
Oh, wow.
Or closer anyway.
So, Kathy, tell us about your day. And I know nobody's day is really typical, but as a spiritual person, as an animal advocate, as a proponent of high-level health, what time do you get up in the morning? What do you eat for breakfast?
The basics. Yeah. Well, first of all, I pretty much live to eat. I love to eat. I'm never going to be one of those people who does the intermittent fasting. For me, I get up, I'm like, oh my God, it's morning. What am I going to have for breakfast? So I usually get up before the sunrise, or in the summertime, maybe a little bit later, but I get up before the sunrise so I can watch it come up. And I have some tea, and then I have breakfast. This morning I had yogurt with fresh raspberries and some granola. And whenever I say yogurt or whatever, it's all non-dairy. Everything I eat, whether it's butter or cheese or whatever, it's just the non-animal version of it. So I had the yogurt and raspberries. And then because it's a weekend, I took a bike ride this morning, which I think I was trying to text you. Well, I was like, am I supposed to be there? So I did 25 miles today. But I tend to do anywhere from 25 to 45 miles on a weekend day. And then during the week, I run 5 miles a day. And that's just, it feels like, I don't know. It feels like I want to experience my health, and that's the best way that I know how to experience my health. So then I come home, get showered, answer emails, and then I work. Not on the weekends, not on Sunday, not on Saturday. But then I just start writing. I start doing my thing, and I work for about, the rest of the afternoon. And I'm personally a big lover of happy hour. So I, have a glass of wine at the end of the day and some cheese and crackers, and, get to cooking dinner. And so it's kind of basic. Tonight, let's see, what am I going to have? So tonight I'm going to make some bolognese made with mushrooms and cauliflower. And I'm going to use the bonza pasta, which is sweet potatoes. So it's loaded with chickpea, which is loaded with protein. And and that's my day. Very simple, very enjoyable.
Oh, that sounds so good. Well, now you've inspired me, because I have some bonzo pasta and I haven't tried it yet.
Oh, so good.
You promise?
Yeah, it's really good. You don't even know it's not regular old white pasta. And it's per serving, I think it's 23 grams of protein. So I like getting a vegetable, a protein, and I mean, I'm kind of basic. I'm always sort of in my head. Did you get some fresh vegetables at this meal? Did you get some good protein? Did you get some, unrefined carbs? So again, I keep it pretty basic.
Yeah. So your latest book, The 72 Reasons to Be Vegan, tell us your favorite reason, or maybe your favorite two or three.
Okay, well, because I am into health, the first reason is that you hugely reduce your chances of getting heart disease, certain types of cancer, type 2 diabetes, stroke, dementia. I've seen members of my family really pretty much have every one of those, not Alzheimer's, but it's pretty motivated. So Jean and I really break down the studies. It's a very simple book. It's like the chapters and the sections are very small, but we give great citations and we keep it light and lively because we don't want to overwhelm people with like so much information, but we give you a path to find more if you're interested. And so that's one of my favorite reasons. The other reason is that it is cheaper and easier than buying a new Tesla because it's great for the environment. Eating animal food is just so hard on our earth, so hard on our soil, on our water, on the air that we breathe, that creates climate change gases. So yes, if you can afford to buy a Tesla, that's a beautiful thing and it will make a difference, but changing the way you eat, moving away from eating animals and toward plant-based is just a huge individual choice that makes a big difference. And then the last choice, one of the last reasons that I so love it is that it's such a relationship builder. Because I think, we were talking before about that numbness when you unnumb yourself, basically, and you connect the dots, you feel more deeply. You're more relational, you're more open, your heart space is open. So not only am I feeling for animals and I'm feeling for like this connectedness with everything, but I'm able to really connect with people in, I think, a much deeper and more expansive way. So relationships really improve. And I think it's super hot, when men are like that. So, I just think it's a great way to feel and relate in your life.
Beautiful. And this is a great book too, the 72 Reasons to Be Vegan, to give to these people that are just kind of veg curious. It's
Mm-hmm.
not intimidating. So Kathy, this always goes so quickly, but last question, and this actually is going to be the question that we'll suggest for our breakout groups after the service. What are you hopeful for this year?
Oh, wow. What am I hopeful for this year? Well, I'm hopeful for so many things. I am just hopeful for all these companies that are plant-based, like Impossible, Hungry Planet, Beyond Meat. I'm just so hopeful that they become more and more ubiquitous because not everybody wants the rice and beans and broccoli. A lot of people want a freaking burger and some sausage, and this is a way to have everything you want. So I am hopeful that these companies just thrive and do better and better and end up in everyone's kitchen.
Ah, beautiful. So Kathy is everywhere. You can find her on Instagram at Kathy Freston. Her website is kathyfreston.com, and she just has books and books and books about health and animals and nutrition. And she collaborated on One Clean Protein with our very first Compassion Consortium guest, Bruce Friedrich, who kicked things off when he was our first guest last April. So thank you, Kathy, so very much for being
Thank
present.
you. Thank you. I love, love, love being part of this compassionate conversation. It's great.
Oh, well, we're very proud of what we do here. It's just one in a strand. We're all kind of weaving, and what we're going to build is a compassionate world. And thank you so much for
Yeah.
being such a great weaver.
Thank you.